What does your dad do for work?
Eat blueberries.
Eat blueberries. For work? Welcome back. I am super excited to share with you my very first interview video. Today I'm going to be interviewing a police officer and sharing with you his insights of why he enjoys his career and what you can learn from him.
I'm Eric LeBaron. I am a corporal with the police department, and I've been doing it for 7 years.
What is a corporal, by the way?
I'm right in between an officer and the sergeant. So I'm kind of like the middle, kind of like a middle manager. I feel like law enforcement's always been something that's interested me. I originally went to school to do mechanical engineering and got into that and kind of decided that it really wasn't for me, and I didn't want to do that much math. And I had a father-in-law that was working for the prison, and I just got married, had a kid, and he said, why don't you come get a job at the prison, make some real money, get some benefits, take care of your family. And so I went and applied and got a job, and I worked out of the prison for about 2.5, almost 3 years, and decided I wanted more, and decided to move out to they call it moving out to the road, and go and work in patrol and being a police officer. Crazy.
Really?
Yeah. But it's manageable. Typical day or typical week, it varies. I think that's the biggest thing that I like about my career, my job, is that every day is totally different. You know, you might go to a similar type call, but every situation is different. You're dealing with different people, different things happen, and so there's different factors that play into it. Some days are super busy, and some days are not so busy, and there's days where you feel like you deal with the same thing over and over and over again, and there's other days where you feel like you deal with a huge variety of stuff.
How many hours would you say you work in a week?
I work about 40 hours a week, but there are times where you might have to stay late or something because there's a late call or something that you need to stay and help out on. Or I've had paychecks where I've had in an 80 or like a 2-week pay period, I've worked up to over 120 hours.
Okay,
So up like 60, yeah. Overtime opportunities. And,
yeah. So you do get paid overtime?
oh yeah.
Dang, that's cool.
So we get overtime, and I think for a lot of guys that's a big motivator because it's easy to stay an extra few hours or come in an extra day and make time and a half. For the police department I work for, we work 12-hour shifts. So it makes it nice because I work about 15 out of 30 days so 15 days out of a month, roughly. So it makes it nice. So I'll work roughly 2 days on, have 2 days off, and I'll have 2 days on, and then I'll have a long weekend. I'll have a 3-day weekend to come back and so the most I ever work in a row is 3 days, unless I pick up some overtime or there's other things going on.
Is that pretty standard?
It seems like it's coming more standard. There are a lot of departments that are working 10-hour shifts, so they're working basically 4 10s each week, and there are some departments that still work 8-hour shifts too. So it just it all depends by the department in the city or county or whoever you work for. You just have to be 21, have a high school diploma, and yeah, you can go through the academy and get your certifications.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, you don't need any college or anything like that. So how the process works, so you go to the academy. After you get out of the academy, you go to your police department, whoever hired you, and you'll go through a field training program. They call it FTO. And that can be, roughly 12 weeks or so, depending on the department, your experience, and stuff like that. And your FTO program will be, it's kind of a tough process because you'll work with different officers, you're brand new, and you're getting just pounded with tons of information. But you'll go out and you'll learn the city, learn addresses, you'll start applying the stuff you learned in the academy, like using the radio, learn how to take calls and different things like that, learn policy, and that's what you do during that time. And then once you finish up your FTO and they feel like you're ready, they'll put you out on patrol. So you'll go out and you'll work patrol, and like I said, depending on the department, you'll work patrol for a few years or something, and then you'll have other opportunities. But there's also specialty spots, they call them. So you have detectives you can go into, so going into investigations. You've got the SWAT team, you can get into that. It just depends on what your department has. K9, a lot of departments have a K9 that you can get into, and these are specialty spots that you can do. A lot of times it'll be for a few years, and then they'll rotate you out and put someone else in there, give them a chance to get more experience and training. And
that's cool.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of stuff. It just depends on your department, what you have to offer. Really huge departments have like bomb squad, with the county they have their canyon patrol and search and rescue and dive teams and stuff like that too.
That'd be cool. That'd be fun. You can shake it up like that.
So yeah, you can make your career. I think that's another great thing about law enforcement. You make your career what you want to make it. If you want to go out and work patrol, they're totally fine. Go out and work patrol for the next 25 years. Or if you want to be a K9, you can go out, work your butt on patrol, show that you can do it, and have a dog and work a dog. In short, it's just to enforce the laws, the state laws and city laws, and then try to serve and protect those that need us that day. Patrols are the biggest. That's the bread and butter of the police department's patrol.
How much of your time is that? Is that 100% of your time?
I would say patrolling takes up less of my day than people would think.
Right.
A big chunk of your day is responding or taking calls, dealing with situations, trying to resolve them. As a police officer, I feel like we wear many hats. Sometimes you're there to enforce the law. Sometimes you're there to be the parent. Sometimes you're there to be the counselor for the person that's having some kind of mental issue. Sometimes you're the person that's there. You're the medical person. You're the one there trying to help somebody that's maybe injured, or you're doing CPR or whatever it may be. I feel like as a police officer, you're required to be able to be very versatile.
How much of your day would you say is paperwork?
A huge part. I think that's the biggest thing that I didn't realize. Even going from corrections to law enforcement like I did, I didn't realize how much paperwork would be involved in my job. I would say at least a third of your day is paperwork. And that's because you got to think that just about every contact we make or any situation we go out to, or we get called out somewhere, or you go out and deal with somebody, there's always a report made.
Yeah.
So you got to, no matter how small. So say alarm company calls in, say there's a residential alarm. We go out there, we check it, seems fine, nothing suspicious. We come back and you still got to type a report. I responded to this place at this time, and on a report of an alarm, the house is found secure. I saw nothing suspicious. Everything's documented.
Yeah.
And then it gets even more when you make an arrest, because when you make an arrest, you gotta document why you went there, what your investigation entailed, your evidence, what actions you took, and then that paperwork has got to get to the appropriate court, and charges sent to the right prosecuting office and stuff like that. I think most departments right now are starting at about $20 an hour, roughly. And I think it's going to go up just a little bit more, about 20, 21, 22. Depending on how you promote and different things like that, there's a pretty wide range. I would say if you can get up to the point where you're a chief or something like that, chief of a police department, you're probably making a salary of close to 100 grand around there somewhere. But I would say if you spent your career as just an officer, you'd probably make somewhere between 20 and close to $40 an hour. If you did your 25 years just an officer. Yeah. If you promote, there's the potential of making more than that. I think for somebody who's young, looking and getting into law enforcement, I think that my best advice would be to focus on being a good kid, focus on getting your high school diploma, because that's your biggest thing. And because like I said, you got to have a high school diploma and be 21, but the other things that hinder a lot of people that apply is criminal history. So problems as a juvenile, and then things as an adult. That's not saying that if you have a criminal history you can't be a cop, but there are some crimes and things that could deter you from being able to do that. So I would try to stay away from drugs and anything violent. I tell people this and they laugh, but I like the unknown. I guess it's the excitement of the unknown. I feel like in a lot of situations that we go into, whether it's a big situation or not, a lot of times the information we have is very minimal. So somebody hit somebody and we're showing up and we don't know if they're still fighting, if there's weapons, if there's more than just those two people fighting. I think it's just the excitement of every call is different, every day is different. The other thing is the camaraderie. It's the fact that I'm going into this situation, I don't know what it is, but I have, this officer or this sergeant or this whoever's with me, and we trust each other. We trust that we're gonna have each other's back, and we're gonna protect each other and protect those that need to be helped. And I think that's a big part of it too. I think the best part of law enforcement is that you're outside, you see a lot of negativity, but you also see a lot of good, and you're a part of that good too. I think it all depends on what your personality and stuff, but you can do a lot of good. A difficult part of my job is being in a situation where you want to help, or try to do something, but you can't. Whether it be they don't want your help, or maybe due to laws or policies or whatever it may be, you can't. Or resources, you don't have the ability to be able to do something to help that person in that time of need. The one big thing about law enforcement is, and I try to keep this in my mind all the time, is that most of the time when we go out and deal with people, we're dealing with them at their lowest point. Like, this isn't how they always are. And whatever the circumstance may be or whatever may happen, they're at a point now where we're getting called out there, and our goal is to try to resolve the situation, try to make it so it doesn't happen again, or make it better, or whatever, try to see what we can do to help out.
I'm sure you could write a book on the crazy things you've seen. How tough is that aspect of your work?
It's pretty tough. You learn to kind of go with it, I guess you could say. I think that's part of that camaraderie and that brotherhood you have. You work with all these other men and women that have seen similar things or were with you during that situation. I think it helps you get through those tough situations. I think that's what keeps people doing it, keeps people going, is that, because you gotta have some kind of
support group.
Yeah, a way to reach out and be able to talk about it or get over it, or
get it off your chest.
Mm-hmm. The hardest part of our job is just trying to find the middle ground of what happened. You got one person saying this and the other person saying this. And the hardest part of our job is take that and then try to take the facts and evidence and try to figure out, like, most of the time you never know 100% exactly what happened, but you can get pretty close. And sometimes you're talking to one guy outside and the other officer's talking to somebody else inside, so that you can get to their stories and separate them, and then you got to be able to come together and trust each other and try to see if you can mesh that together and figure it out. Yeah, it's interesting. There's definitely times you go out there and you're like, no one wants to tell you the truth, but you can't figure out what happened, but you know something happened, but you just can't prove it, and so sometimes it can get a little frustrating. But you're always chasing after that tail, trying to figure out what's going on. So even since I've started, in the 7 years I've started, it's changed a ton, and I think it's going to keep changing. Our job is done is by how the community sees it, how they want it. If you look back in the past, you know, I think law enforcement was a lot more, they were the letter of the law, and they didn't take any crap from anybody, anything like that. And nowadays it's a lot more try to de-escalate, talk to people, find a different solution, find a better way to resolve the situation, you know, and try to work through it more than just, you broke the law, you're going to jail, whether you like it or not, and it's going to take 10 of us to take you there. So
we've gone from maybe resolving things with physical,
right, to more
verbal
and trying to create a better solution. You know what I mean? Maybe this is more of a mental illness thing, and so we'll try to resolve it with something like that instead of sending them to jail and things like that. And so I think as time goes on, it's going to get more and more like that. So the biggest thing with law enforcement is it's essential. Like we have to have law enforcement, or otherwise you know, they talk about law enforcement as kind of like that line between, you know, everybody being civil and chaos. Yeah. You know what I mean? If people think that they can just get away with whatever they want, they'll just do whatever they want. You know what I mean? And so you have to have law enforcement. So law enforcement will always be here. I think the question is how will it change in the future? I guess that's what we're getting at. And the job is always changing because it's always based on what society wants law enforcement to do. You know what I mean? Like society nowadays doesn't want law enforcement to go out and, you know, harass everybody and, you know what I mean, take everybody to jail. Like that's just the way it's changing, and you can see that. You can see it in the news. And so we have, as a law enforcement community, we have to adapt and change and train and be more of how society wants us to be. I feel like the job that I have allows me to live a pretty full life. You know, with the shifts that I work, I feel like I'm home a lot. Like I work a lot of hours, but I do feel like I'm home a lot more than a lot of people. It's nice because I work close to home. So if I need to run home for lunch or need to run home and pick up a kid that's sick at school or something like that, I can just run right over here, go get, you know what I mean? Like, I think the flexibility of my job is nice. The fulfillment that I get from my job is the camaraderie. It's what we were talking about before. It's going into an exciting situation or crazy situation, knowing that, you know, you're not the only one. I think a big part of law enforcement, actually a huge part of law enforcement, is integrity. If you can't be honest with yourself and you can't be honest with other people, then there's no way you could do this job. You know, people gotta trust that you're gonna do the right thing. People gotta trust that you're gonna be accurate in your reports and put truthful things, and that's the huge part of our job is, you know, whether people can trust you. And I think what's helped me is having a childhood and parents that raised me to try to be a good person, to have integrity, to be honest. You know, just I think that's the biggest thing, is just how I was raised. I would have to say Michael from The Office.
Nice. How come?
I would say Michael just mainly because I think I like his personality. He's funny because he's very self-absorbed, but he's also very caring and cares about his employees and cares about everybody as more than just an acquaintance. He cares about who they are and that they're happy. So
to like a fault.
Yeah, exactly.
I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
I wouldn't say that. I don't know. I started out my career in corrections. I started out working out of the prison.
Oh, okay.
And there was guys out there that would get upset when you call them a prison guard, because I am a correctional officer. So they're like, I'm not just a guard. I'm not like the mall security guy. I'm an actual officer. I think the one we hear the most is officer. Yeah.
Is there one that's like a downer?
No, I wouldn't say that, no.
I hope that was helpful. One key takeaway that I got from that experience was that being a police officer requires a lot of teamwork. So if you're someone who has enjoyed being a part of a team, whether it be sports or in school or in previous jobs, you might also really enjoy being a police officer. You can see here what personality type Eric has. If you haven't already, make sure to take the personality quiz to see what personality type you have, to know if you could get the same satisfaction from being a police officer. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, make sure to click the like button and share this video with someone that you think could benefit. Hit the subscribe button below to follow along with the latest videos on hobbies, opportunities, work, and how to find the right career fit for you.